Good morning. Got a little wind blowing today out of the south. Pretty warm though. Hoping it'll cool off a little bit. We had some crazy weather up and down, and lots of wind, lots of allergies, a lot of people sick. The hospital's completely full. We're at capacity. I worked yesterday. We were 5 people short. It's totally insane. It's going to be an endurance test this winter. It already is an endurance test, actually, has been for a long time. Anyway, I wanted to talk about stability, something that kind of popped in my head today. And I think that we're in a time right now when we're going to be falling back onto things that are stable. All the all the paraphernalia that they've used, the controllers, the system controllers, the dark forces, whatever you want to call them, all the paraphernalia they've used to keep us in line and keep us under control and hypnotize us, it's all starting to fall apart. And I was thinking about these ancients. I talked about the temples they built in India, these ancient temples. I mean, they say, they'll say, the archaeologists will say, oh, these temples are, 1,000 years old, they're 1,500 years old. I mean, amazing, right? The carvings on them are beautiful. They're solid stone structures. Some of them are put together with these interlocking blocks that it looks like one solid piece of stone. They're fitted together so tightly. And they don't even have the technology to do that now. And they're saying that these people were primitive and using, bronze chisels and all that, which is completely ridiculous. Um, what those are to me, what they represent to me, are they're remnants of a very high level civilization that existed. And this high level civilization, they created these edifices that would last for millennia, and they would charge these edifices, I talked about lingams, these round, or they're different geometric shapes, but they're like a tall, little pillar, like a post almost. And they would charge these things with energy, I believe. This is just my what I surmised from it. And the reason they did this is because they understood the inevitability of their decline. I mean, they they created something really amazing and powerful and special, and they might have had a really high level society, high level culture, but they understood that it would decline. And so they put almost like a safety net around the planet. They built these pyramids, these sacred structures on these ley lines, these energy meridians on the earth. And it provided like a safety net. It provided almost like we have, Wi-Fi and all that right now that's kind of polluting the environment. Well, this was the opposite of that. This would be like an energetic field that would actually elevate consciousness. So it's like a consciousness elevator. That it's a technology. It is a technology. It's just such a high level technology that we haven't rediscovered it yet. I believe pranahuti in the heartfulness system. You know, uh, I believe that pranahuti was rediscovered by the first president of the heartfulness system. And but it used to be they had these structures that were emanating this godly energy at a very, very subtle levels, and this was elevating consciousness. So the reason I bring this up is because we're in a state right now where, you know, these dark forces took over the planet. So you had a really high level civilization. Maybe you had several high level civilizations that fell, like their frequency fell, whatever you want to call it. They went from higher dimension to lower dimension to lower dimension. It's like a stair step. It's a gradual step down. Now, we don't understand. We might see that as something bad, right? But in a godly sense, we don't know, because maybe the whole thing is designed like that on purpose, so that the light, these light beings can fall down in density and experience darkness, because it's hard to understand something until you experience it. I mean, this is why doing your own meditation practice and all that is so important. And sometimes following a system is the best thing. like a heartfulness system, but it could be anything. Any other system could be good for you at the point you're at. 12-step program, for people might be a good thing at some point. Um, so everything has its place, is what I'm saying. But the energy level, these high level societies, they tried to protect it. They tried to hold it at the highest level they could for as long as they could. So they created these massive temples, these massive pyramids. And I mean, even if you had high technology, it still was a lot of labor. It was very labor intensive to build these. I mean, even if you had, um, you know, let's say you could levitate stones and you had amazing tools to cut the blocks. I mean, you still had to measure things precisely. It was very precisely done. So there's a lot of technology involved and a lot of labor on someone's part. And they didn't do this just for fun. They did this because I believe they were building a shield around the consciousness. It was like a consciousness shield, and it was holding, elevating. Well, that fell, and when that fell, these dark forces were allowed to come in. They found a weakness in the system, and they exploited it. And they came in and they took over. And now, however, all that happened, I don't know. There's lots of theories. The theories about the Nephilim and the fallen angels and all these things. I don't know. It doesn't really matter, honestly, to me. Um, but so these dark forces came in and they created their own grid, their own structure, right? But it's to keep frequency down, not to keep it up. So it's a technology because these dark entities, these dark angels, Luciferians, whatever, they practice occult. They practice occult hidden techniques, technologies. Okay. So they pervert these technologies to suppress humankind. It's a complete opposite of what, someone on a godly mission would use technology to elevate consciousness. Um, and we can see this right now with like the internet. You can look at porn or you can study God. You could look at the most horrible, terrible things, or you could look at the most uplifting, enlightening things. So it's just a medium for whatever the consciousness is at. And right, what we're seeing right now is we're seeing the extreme polarity of it. It's like I told you I had like a vision of, the forces of good and evil fighting each other on this field, on a battlefield. But underlying that field was consciousness. Consciousness never changes. It's not good or bad. It's not. It's not a polarity. It just is. And this is so we're being pushed into the situation where, or we have come to a situation, we're lucky to be in it, actually, I think, where we're getting to see the light and we're getting to see the dark simultaneously, and we're actually seeing the darkness being exposed. It's like, the smoke rising off a fire. I mean, we're seeing it for what it is. It's just darkness. It's the absence of light. And these beings have created this energetic field around the planet to suppress us, you know, and this energetic field is falling apart, just like the ancients, field to hold consciousness at a higher level fell apart eventually, you know, and it's natural. This is a natural thing. What they've done to override human consciousness is it's really horrible and terrible and all that from our perspective, because we've kind of been the victims of it, but we're also the recipients of something really amazing. We're getting to experience the darkness, the full on darkness. We're getting to experience it, and what I believe that means is we're going to also experience the full on light, the full on godly energy. And beyond that, even is this field of consciousness that never changes. It's in a state of complete balance, complete harmony, love. It's love, and so I think it's a very exciting time. It's just that in the midst of all this, it seems like chaos. It seems like, crazy stuff's happening. People are losing their minds, because they're not coming from a place of stability. They think this is reality, and when their reality is taken away, their sense of self completely dissolves. They have no other sense of self except for what they have attached to everything else. I mean, we see this with, I mean, this is, isn't this the big warning of, spiritual teachings is don't be so absorbed in your material things that you forget that that's not what you are. I mean, you know, the biggest enlightenment moment would be, you know, I'm not these material things. I'm this everlasting soul that goes on forever. It never ends. I never die, really. I don't die. I just change forms. And this is the big spiritual thing, that all these traditions are really leaning us towards. They're trying to pull us out of this field of relativity and put our consciousness into a higher realm. And so I think it's exciting. And what I wanted to mention is that people who are connecting to God, making a godly connection, we're the stabilizers. We're creating stability in the environment. And uh, it doesn't mean that you're going to have, it doesn't mean, I think that there's been a lot of this. The New Age movement has really polluted things. Um, it's not that you're not going to have, worldly thoughts. I mean, I had a coworker at work, and she bought a new car, and I was thinking, man, I'd really, you start thinking, oh, I should have a new car. Why don't I have a car? You start. It's funny how it works. Your mind starts, you know, attaching to this idea. We are but slaves to our wishes, holding bar to our advancement. That's the second stanza of the Sahaj Marg prayer. We are literally slaves to these wishes, and we have to understand that, and then we can, let this stuff fall off of us, and we don't have to hold on to it, and that's where the cleaning process is so valuable. So, what we're creating are these human lingams that are holding light, holding this, just this really stabilizing energy right now. That we don't need temples. We don't need. They don't need to build edifices around the planet. We are the edifices. We are the living, breathing um, transmitters, transducers, receivers, senders. We are those things. We human beings are that. We are that. We are these. Basically, we're these light bodies, and we just have the desire for God. We have the connection to God. We want to be with God. We want to connect to Source, and that just creates tremendous stability, so much stability. And the these guides, these higher level beings are sending love to us. They're pumping love. They're pumping love to us right now. We just have to open to receive it. And the programming and all that is it has to be removed for us to receive that love and to be able to send that love. But we can practice it all the time. We can always be practicing it. And no matter what level you're at, it's like when you first start weightlifting, you might only be able to do one set, but as you practice, you can do, 3, 4, 5 sets. And it's the same thing with this. With this, we might do remembrance, once a week. We might only really think of God once a week when we go to church, or we might, you know, build up our endurance and be able to think of God, all the time, every minute, every second of every day. And it's not that you're trying to achieve a goal. It's just that you're connecting to Source. You're connecting to the highest of the high, the highest level thing there is. There's nothing else at that level. And you live your life, you do your things, but you're connecting to this Source, and you're providing this um, in, incredible amount of uh, stability. You're like a stabilizing force, and that's what these people that are on a true spiritual path, they are the stabilizers right now, and everything's going to start to fall apart. These people are going to lose their minds. They're going to literally lose their minds because they've completely connected to something emotionally, mentally, intellectually, on every level. They have connected to this false this false god, this false idol. These things that they held in esteem, these things that they thought were real, are going to fall apart. And we're going to be there to provide stability. and non-judgment, because it's easy to go, hey, hey, I was right, hey, hey, you were wrong, but it really doesn't solve anything. It doesn't make anyone a better person. Um, when I got sick, I had to, you kind of want to put it in their face, say, oh, look, you were against me. You were telling me that this wouldn't work. You were against me at every turn, and yet I healed myself in spite of your criticism and your judgment. But what good does that do? It just creates more division, and you know, when you're at a higher level of consciousness, there's just no attraction to that kind of thinking. There's just no attraction to it. It doesn't serve you. It doesn't serve anything, and it actually pushes you away from that higher level, that uh, godly energy. Anyway, starting to ramble, but I think you get the point. Have a blessed day.